There is a strange, quiet thickness in the air tonight, a heavy weight that has settled quietly over your room. You might be sitting in the absolute silence, looking at your hands in the dim light, wondering why the path has felt so incredibly narrow, and why the silence has felt so heavy and long. You feel completely alone in this hour, as if your struggles are entirely invisible to the world, as if your silent tears are lost forever in the dark. You look around the room, and you see only empty space and quiet walls. But there is a spiritual reality you cannot see, a truth that is about to completely change everything. The atmosphere around you is not empty. It is crowded with life. It is filled with unseen observers, with the witnesses of the heavenly realms, top-level agents of the Father, who have been assigned to watch your life. They have not been watching to find fault. They have not been watching to judge your weaknesses. They have been watching you in absolute awe as you stood faithful. When everything else fell apart around you, chosen one, listen closely to the quiet whisper of the Spirit. You are not forgotten in the shadows. You are being watched by the courts of heaven. Every single step you took in the dark was recorded. Every time you chose to trust God, while your heart was breaking in 1,000 pieces, a detailed report was being written in heaven. The heavenly hosts have witnessed your silent battle. They saw when you wanted to throw in the towel, but you chose to kneel on your floor instead. They saw when you stayed silent. While others accused you and mocked your faith, you thought nobody saw the sacrifice. You thought you were drowning in absolute isolation, but you were actually on display. A spectacle to the angels, a witness of faith to the heavenly hosts. And now, the observation phase is finally ending. A new directive has been issued from the throne. You are being summoned for an in-person encounter with the King himself. We often feel that to be noticed by God, we must perform on a grand public stage. We think we must achieve great things before the eyes of heaven will turn toward us. We seek the applause of men to feel validated. We want the crowd to recognize our struggle. But C.S. Lewis understood the depth of divine attention. In his classic work, The Weight of Glory, he wrote, "The promise of glory is not merely that we shall see God, but that we shall be seen by Him, to be loved by Him, to be recognized by Him. This is the ultimate promise of your calling, chosen one, to be seen by the divine, not just by human eyes that look at the outward appearance, but by the Creator of the universe, who looks at the hidden, quiet corners of your heart. He has looked upon you. He has recognized your silent, painful endurance. The heavenly messengers have submitted their final report, and the Father is saying to you tonight, I see you, my child. I know the exact cost of your obedience. I have watched every single tear in the dark. I know the times you cried yourself to sleep, and yet you still woke up and praised my name. And now, He is summoning you, not to a public platform, not to a stage of human glory, but to the quietness of His inner chamber, to give you His personal, in-person gratitude. He wants to look you in the eyes and show you the value of your secret tears. It is a heavy thing to carry the gaze of heaven when the world ignores you and those around you reject and abandon you. Your flesh cries out for human validation. You want people to notice your pain. You want them to understand the path you are walking. You want someone to say that they see your struggle. But the Father has intentionally hidden you from them. He locked you in the secret place of isolation so that the only eyes upon you were the eyes of His heavenly messengers. They watched how you treated those who hurt you. They watched if you would compromise in the dark. They monitored the frequency of your prayers. When no one else was listening to your voice, they stood in the corner of your room, recording the times you chose holiness over comfort, and they found you faithful. The gaze of heaven is a consuming, holy fire. It burns away the desire for human applause and leaves only the pure gold of divine recognition. You have been prepared for this moment. By the very isolation that you hated, there is a quiet, sacred vault in the heavens, a secure archive of the King, where your private faithfulness is stored for eternity. It is not a dark, dusty hall of cold ledgers and forgotten names. It is a magnificent chamber filled with living, breathing light. Every single hour you spent in quiet, painful obedience, when the world thought you were failing and completely forgotten, is preserved there as a precious and holy treasure. The heavenly messengers have carefully catalogued your resistance. They have documented the exact moments you chose integrity, when taking the easy shortcut of compromise would have been so simple. They recorded the silent battles you fought on your knees, when the only audience was the silence of your room. Your file in the heavenly courts is not empty, chosen one. It is heavy, weighted down with the pure gold of your trials. It contains the testimony of your endurance in the dark, a testament that is about to be read aloud in the presence of the sovereign Creator. You thought your secret prayers were lost in the air, but they were written in the books of the King. You are stepping out of the shadows now. The summons is active in the spirit. The veil is growing thin between you and the throne. Do you feel the shifting of the winds in your life? Do you feel the sudden urgency in your spirit? This is not the time to run back to the old ways. This is the call to step into the chamber. The Father is waiting for you. He is ready to speak the words that will erase years of pain in a single second. A personal, intimate thank you, a divine vindication that will shake the earth. But you must step away from the noise of the world. You must leave the crowd behind and walk through the door of the secret place, where the King is waiting to receive you. He is waiting to tell you, "Well done. Thank you for not settling. Thank you for trusting me in the dark." Do you feel the transition starting? Do you hear the quiet summons of the Father? If your heart is ready to step into the chamber and receive His divine recognition, type these words in the comments. I feel it. Let this be your sign of covenant agreement, a declaration that you hear the voice of the King and that you are ready to walk through the door, to step into the presence, and to receive the personal expression of gratitude that heaven has prepared for you. Turn your eyes away from the distraction and step into the quiet chamber of His love. It is in the deep, quiet hours of the night, when the world around you is fast asleep, that the weight of isolation presses down on your chest. You look back at the years of your struggle. You think about the friends who walked away from you, the family members who misunderstood your calling, and the partners who abandoned you when you needed them most. It feels like you are walking through a vast, barren desert, a solitary traveler with no one to share the burden. You ask yourself, does anyone see what I am going through? Is there anyone who understands the pain of this process? The enemy whispers to you in these moments. He tells you that you are completely forgotten. He tells you that your life is a series of meaningless struggles, that you are wandering in circles, unseen and unvalued. This is the great illusion of solitude, chosen one. It is a lie designed to break your spirit. It is a shroud of darkness meant to hide the truth. But tonight, the Father is pulling back the curtain. He wants you to see beyond the physical wall of your room. He wants you to know that the isolation was never absolute. You have never walked a single step of this valley alone. Chosen one, lift up your head and look beyond the immediate pain. You have felt the sting of human rejection. You have felt the coldness of being cast out. But while human doors were slammed in your face, the windows of heaven were opened wide over your life. There is a gallery in the spiritual realm, a vast, grand amphitheater that surrounds your path. and it is filled with unseen supporters. The hosts of heaven have taken their seats to watch you run this difficult race when you are struggling to pay the bills, and you chose to give anyway. They stood and cheered when you were tempted to compromise your values, to take the easy way out of the pressure, and you said, "No, I will honor God." A wave of celebration swept through the heavenly ranks. You thought you were performing in an empty theater, but the seats were completely full. Every angel, every cloud of witness was looking down, cheering for your victory, admiring your quiet strength. This is not a poetic fantasy. This is a structural reality of the kingdom. The Bible speaks of this unseen audience. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1, it is written, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." Hebrews 12:1. Think about the magnitude of this truth. You are surrounded not by enemies who seek your destruction, but by a great, mighty cloud of witnesses, the saints of old, the angelic hosts, the heavenly messengers of grace. They are leaning over the balconies of heaven, watching every move you make. They know how hard the ground is where you walk. They know the weight of the gravity that pulls you down, and they are cheering you on. They are shouting, "Do not stop. Do not throw off the burden yet. The finish line is closer than you think." Your perseverance is not a waste of time. It is the main event of the heavenly courts. Every single tear you shed in the secret place was not lost in the dirt. Every sigh of exhaustion that escaped your lips was not swallowed by the empty wind. There are scribes in the presence of the Father, whose only job is to record the history of your faith. They have logged every moment you chose to forgive, when you had every right to seek revenge. They have noted every time you spoke in love. When the enemy inside others was screaming at you, nothing you did in obedience was wasted. Nothing was left out of the ledger of heaven. You might have forgotten the small acts of integrity, the times you helped someone in secret, the times you chose to pray instead of complaining. But heaven has not forgotten a single detail. The files have been kept with absolute precision, and they are being opened in this very hour to prepare the reward that is due to your name. We often mistake the silence of God for His absence. We think that when heaven is quiet, we are abandoned in the dark. But the silence is actually an active, crucial phase of your training. C.S. Lewis spoke of the test of the shut door. When you pray, and the only answer is the echo of your own voice, it is in those very moments that the witnesses lean in. They crowd the balconies of the spiritual realm, holding their breath, watching your next move with intense interest. Will you walk away when the answers are delayed? Will you stop worshipping when the path goes dark? The silence is not a void of neglect, chosen one. It is a holy test of your spiritual maturity. The Father is watching to see if your faith is transactional, or if it is rooted in who He is. He is quiet because He is confident in your seed. He knows you will not break under the pressure of the quiet. He has watched you stand firm in the silence before, and He knows you will stand firm again tonight. Your endurance in the quiet is proof of your alignment. The true test of the chosen one is private integrity. It is what you do when you think nobody is watching. It is the choices you make in the dark, when there is no pastor to praise you, no friend to encourage you, no camera to record your good deeds. That is where the real work is done, and that is exactly where the heavenly messengers were stationed. They were in the room with you. When you chose to stay clean, when you refused to look at the dirty thing, when you refused to speak the bitter word, your private integrity was a sweet fragrance to the throne. It proved that your heart belonged to the Father, not to the applause of the world. And because you were faithful in the pitch black, You have been granted access to the brilliant light. The observation phase is complete. The reports are finalized, and the summons is now being delivered. Do you believe that God has seen your hidden struggle? Do you trust that He has recorded every single tear? If you are ready to let go of the pain of isolation and trust the record of heaven, type these words in the comments. Only God knows. Let this declaration seal your heart tonight. Let it release the need for human approval. And let it remind you that your story is written in the books of the King, and He is about to reveal what has been hidden in the secret place. There is a moment in the life of every chosen one when the spiritual atmosphere undergoes a dramatic shift. It is the moment when the hidden processing is complete and the files of your life are brought before the King. You might feel as if you are stuck in a waiting room, watching the clock, wondering when your turn will come. But in the courts of heaven, the books are open. The record of your years of silence is being examined. This is not a general audit of humanity. It is a specific, high-level review of your faithfulness. Every test you faced has been graded. Every time you were pushed to the limit, and yet you did not break, has been noted. The angels who were assigned to your life, the heavenly messengers who walked beside you in the dark, have returned to the throne room to submit their testimonies. They are presenting the evidence of your obedience. They are showing the Father the scars on your heart and the purity of your spirit through the fire. The file of your isolation is open, and the verdict of heaven is about to be declared. Chosen one. You must understand the significance of this hour. The heavenly messengers of the kingdom have reviewed your case. They've checked the ledger of your tears. They have analyzed your responses when you were betrayed. They have looked at how you handled the desert season, when you felt completely abandoned by God and men. And they have found a rare, beautiful thing. They found a heart that stayed loyal, even when it had every reason to walk away. They found a soul that kept its hands clean, even when the dirt of the world was all around. The agents have presented their findings to the Father, and they have given a glowing report of your endurance. They have told the Creator, this one did not bow. This one did not sell their birthright for comfort. They stayed true in the middle of the deepest shadows. Your record has been cleared of every accusation of the enemy. The prosecutor has been silenced, and the highest authorities of heaven are signing the decree of your vindication. Perhaps you are wondering why the road had to be so painful. Why did you have to go through the fire of isolation? Why couldn't the Father validate you in the light? C.S. Lewis explained the purpose of this heavy process. In his book, The Problem of Pain, he wrote, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to arouse a deaf world. The pain of your isolation was not a sign of God's absence. It was his megaphone. He had to shout to get your attention, to wake you up from the dreams of a comfortable slum. He tried to whisper to you in the gentle breezes of life. He spoke to your conscience, warning you to step away. But you were settled in your old ways. You were trying to make the ruins of your old life work. And so, he had to use the megaphone of shaking. The sudden isolation was the shout of his love, tearing down the walls that were keeping you small. Do not resent the loudness of the pain, chosen one. Without the megaphone, you would have stayed asleep. You would have settled for a life that was far below your destiny. The shaking was the only way to awaken the warrior inside you. Now that you are awake, now that the dust of the shaking has settled, the Father is ready to speak his commendation over your life. He is ready to seal your faithfulness with his reward. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 21, it is written, his master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. Matthew 25-21. This is the word the Father is speaking over you tonight. Well done. You were faithful when you had so little. You were faithful when you were walking in the dark. You kept the light of faith burning in a small, hidden room. And because you did not compromise with the little, the King is putting you in charge of the great. You are stepping out of the small cottage of struggle and into the grand palace of His authority. It is time to leave the wilderness behind and step into the joy of your Master's presence. In the courts of this world, men present their trophies. They show their degrees, their wealth, and their public acclaim. But in the courts of heaven, your credentials look very different. The Father does not look at your public applause. He looks at the scars on your heart, every wound you received while protecting your mantle, every bruise from the betrayals you did not return, is a mark of honor in the presence of the King. The heavenly messengers do not present your victories to the throne. They present the evidence of your suffering. They show the scars from the fire of your isolation. They tell the Father, look at where they were wounded, and look at how they remained loyal in the pain. Your scars are the keys that unlock the inner chambers. They are the proof of your citizenship in the palace. Do not hide your wounds, chosen one. Do not look at them as marks of failure. They are your highest recommendations in the courts. They prove that you were tested and found true. Do not look back at the desert with regret. Do not wish you could go back to the comfortable slum. The isolation you endured was not a punishment. It was your high-level security clearance. In the kingdom of God, the deepest secrets are kept hidden. The greatest plans are prepared in the dark. God could not trust the crowd with a blueprint of your future. He had to separate you from the noise so that the enemy could not spy on the preparation. Your loneliness was a fortress of protection, a shield that kept you safe from the darts of compromise. And now that the security check is complete and your faithfulness has been verified by the highest agents, the doors of the inner chamber are swinging open. You are no longer an outsider looking in. You are a trusted servant of the King, being summoned for a face-to-face promotion. The review is finished. The report has been accepted, and the King is waiting for you in the room of gratitude. If you are ready to receive His commendation, if you are ready to hear Him say, "Well done" over your life, type these words in the comments. I am ready. Let this be your response to the heavenly summons, a declaration that you are stepping out of the desert and walking straight into the chamber of the King to receive the weight of glory that has been prepared specifically for you. To change your life, you must first change how you view your trials. You have looked at your desert season through the lens of failure. You saw the quietness of your phone, the absence of invitations, the empty seats at your table, and you labeled it as a period of absolute rejection. You thought, I must have done something wrong. I am being punished. God has turned His back on my life. But tonight, the Spirit is rewriting the narrative of your desert. The isolation was not a dungeon of punishment. It was a laboratory of power. It was the place where your spiritual muscle was built, where the weak areas of your character were reinforced, where you learned to find water in the dry sand. You had to be stripped of the human dependencies so that you would know the strength of the divine. Your wilderness was not the end of your story. It was the testing ground for your promotion. The Father is redefining the sand beneath your feet. It was never a wasteland. It was a holy ground of preparation. Chosen one, hear the truth about your loneliness. It was your shield. It was the perimeter wall that kept you safe. When you wanted to walk into the traps of the enemy, God shut the door and locked you inside. He knew that if you had stayed in that group, their compromise would have corrupted your seed. If you had married that person, their unbelief would have choked your calling. If you had gotten that job, the comfort of the salary would have made you settle. And so, God allowed them to reject you. He made you look strange and distant to them. He created a holy friction that made you walk alone. You thought you were being abandoned by your friends, but you were actually being rescued by your Father. He separated you to keep your mantle pure. He chose to let you feel lonely for a season, rather than let you feel comfortable in the counterfeit destiny. You did not walk that desert path without protection. Even when you felt completely exposed to the elements, there was a heavy guard stationed around your life. In Psalm 91, verse 11, it is written, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Psalm 96 This is the security detail that was assigned to you. Top-level agents of the throne, stationed at the north, south, east, and west of your desert, they were commanding the winds, blocking the arrows of the enemy that were aimed at your heart. When the enemy tried to pull you into depression, the agents held up the shield of grace. When you stumbled on the rocks of discouragement, they caught you in their hands, lest you strike your foot against a stone. You thought you were a target in the open field, but you were inside a fortress of angels. Your isolation was guarded. Your desert was patrolled by the armies of the King. You were never in danger of being destroyed. You were only in the process of being preserved. The secret room was not meant to be your permanent home. It was the womb of your destiny. It was the hidden place where the bones were formed, where the plan of God was knit together. Inside that quiet room, you learned the sound of the Father's voice. You learned to distinguish the whisper of the Spirit from the noisy static of your own emotions. You learned to worship in the dark, to praise Him when there was no sign of victory. That is the training of a general. A common soldier can only fight when the sun is shining, but a general of the King must know how to lead in the dark. Your secret room was the war academy of heaven, and every quiet day of waiting was a lecture on spiritual authority. You were not wasting time. You were acquiring the credentials that will allow you to stand before kings without trembling. Why did God have to pull you out of the crowd? Why did He force you into the heavy quiet of the desert? Because the comfort of the crowd was a trap. C.S. Lewis wrote about the tragedy of human ambition. He said, "We are like ignorant children playing with mud. We are content making mud pies in a slum because we cannot imagine what is meant by the offer of a beautiful holiday at the sea." You were content with the mud pies of your old life. You wanted to stay in the slum of a compromise. You were ready to settle for a small, comfortable career and a group of friends who did not share your depth. So the Father had to shake your world. He allowed the rejection to destroy your mud pies. He shut the doors to the slum so you would look up. The desert was the only way to clear your vision, to prepare you for the infinite holiday of His presence. He wanted you to taste the salt of the sea, not the dirt of the slum. The training phase is officially over. The preparation is complete. You have passed the security clearance. The report of your faithfulness has been sealed, and the heavenly messengers are packing up the tents of your desert. It is time to move the camp. The wilderness is receding behind you, and the gates of the palace are rising in front of you. Do not try to carry the sand of the desert into the palace. Leave the dust of your resentment behind. Forgive those who left you alone. They were only actors in the script of your preparation. They had to leave so that you could walk into this room. The summons is calling you forward. The King is waiting to thank you for staying true to the course when it felt like the desert would never end. Step up to the threshold. Your training is finished, and your reign is about to begin. The old season is ending tonight. The desert has done its work, and the palace doors are opening. If you are ready to leave the wilderness behind and refuse to settle for the comforts of the slum, Type these words in the comments. I will not settle. Let this be your battle cry, a decree to the spiritual realm, that you have outgrown the desert, that you will not accept the counterfeits, and that you are ready to receive the fullness of what the Father has prepared for you. Here you are, standing at the very end of the long corridor. The air is no longer cold and dusty with the desert wind. It is warm, fragrant with the scent of cedar and holy oil. The heavy oak doors of the king's personal chamber stand before you. You have spent years looking at closed doors. You have spent decades knocking on gates that refuse to open. But this door is different. This is the entrance to the room of intimacy, the place where the king meets his friends. Your breath slows down. The rapid beat of your heart begins to settle. You look down at your garments. They are no longer stained with the ash of the wilderness. They have been replaced with the white linen of justification. The heavenly messengers who escorted you to this threshold are stepping back into the shadows. Their mission is complete. They have brought you to the King, and now you must walk through the door alone. For so long, you believed you were locked out. You thought your prayers were bouncing off a brass ceiling, that the door to your destiny was bolted shut forever. But C.S. Lewis saw the glorious end of the knocking. In Times the Weight of Glory, he wrote, "The door on which we have been knocking all our lives will open at last. Today, chosen one, that door is swinging open for you. It is not opening because of your strength. It is opening because of your faithfulness in the secret place." The years of knocking were not in vain. Every knock was a testimony of your trust. Every prayer you whispered through the keyhole was heard by the one inside. And now, he has stood up from his throne. He has walked to the entrance, and he is opening the door with his own hand. Step across the threshold. The barrier is gone. The waiting is over. You are entering the chamber of divine presence. As you step inside, you do not find a judge ready to scold you. You do not find an angry master demanding more work. You find the Father, and his eyes are filled with tears of joy as he looks at you. He does not ask you to list your achievements. He does not ask you to prove your worth. He simply reaches out his arms and embraces you. And in that holy embrace, the King of the universe whispers a personal thank you. Thank you for holding the line. Thank you for choosing me over the world. Thank you for trusting me when the path made no sense. Your tears are wiped away by his hand. Your wounds are healed by the warmth of his gratitude. In a single moment, the memory of the desert is completely erased. The pain of the isolation is swallowed up by glory. You are no longer the lonely watchman. You are the honored guest of the King. Stepping through the threshold of the chamber is a promotion, but it is not a promotion to a higher rank of labor. It is an elevation to a deeper level of friendship. The King does not summon you to give you new burdens. He summons you to give you his heart. In the secret room of your isolation, you learned his voice. You learned to sit in his presence without demanding anything. And now, he welcomes you not as a servant, but as a friend. The highest authority in the kingdom is born of intimacy. A servant only knows the rules of the house, but a friend knows the desires of the master. The Father is whispering his secrets to you tonight. He is sharing the blueprints of the next season because he trusts you with his private counsel. Receive the gift of divine friendship, chosen one. You are no longer working for the King. You are walking with him. This is the ultimate reward of the secret place. The transition from a laborer to a companion. Let the truth of this moment sink into your spirit. Every ending you experienced in the wilderness, every closed door, every broken relationship was not a tragedy. It was the necessary clearance of the sight. If you are ready to acknowledge that your pain had a purpose, if you believe that the Father has used it all to bring you here, Type these words in the comments. Every ending was preparation. Let this be your declaration of alignment, a testament that you trust the grand design of the builder, and that you see the glory that has risen from the ashes of your wilderness. Let us seal this summons with a prayer of dedication. Bow your head and let your spirit agree with these words. Father, I stand in your chamber tonight. I leave the dust of the desert at the door. I forgive those who walked away from me. I thank you for the isolation that kept me safe. I thank you for the megaphone of shaking that woke me up. I hear your voice saying, "Well done." I receive your personal vindication over my life. I step into the new season of your authority. I am ready to rule where I once struggled. I seal this summons in the name of Jesus. Amen. The prayer is spoken. The decree is registered in the heavenly courts. If you believe this prophetic word is yours, if you receive the summons and the promotion of the King, type these words in the comments. I receive it. Let this be your final act of faith, the physical key that unlocks the spiritual door. Claim the promise, walk in the authority, and step into the inheritance that has been kept safe for this very hour. And now, chosen one, as you walk out of the secret chamber, you carry the fragrance of the King's presence. You are no longer who you were when you entered. You walk with a different authority. You speak with a different clarity. The heavenly messengers will continue to watch you, but they will watch you walk in victory, not in struggle. Go forth in the power of His grace. May the peace of the Father guard your heart. May the wisdom of the Son guide your steps. And may the fellowship of the Spirit keep you holy. Until we meet again, this is C.S. Lewis Sermons. Amen.